This is how to make an anime edit.
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.
Step 1 is to have an anime. Step 2 is to have a song. Step 3 is to find a scene in the anime that you want to edit. After you select your scene, now it's time to mark the beats in the song that we're going to be editing to. You can mark a beat using the marker tool on the right side of the screen. I'm just going to be playing the song and just marking the impact points of the song, like the bass, any words that I feel like would go good in edit. Okay, so I think I've marked all the beats I'm going to be using in this edit, so here I'll just go ahead and let it play so you can see it.
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.
So that's how you mark your beats. Once you've marked your beats, now it's time to start putting your scenes where the beats are at. This is how I've decided my scenes are going to flow.
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.
After you're done putting your scenes in the right place, then you go ahead and twixtor. I like to do my twixtor relatively early to see if it's going to be like a huge hassle or not, because some scenes require a lot more work on them to make the twixtor perfect. But I'll go ahead and do that now. The type of twixtor I do is where you grab the keyframes that are moving and you put them all together to get a fluid twixtor that has no stops in it at all. Then I interpolate it using a different program. So the first step to doing that is first pre-comping. Now we're going to press Ctrl, Alt, and T to open up the timer map panel. Now we're going to press page down to move forward until we're just trying to find the moving frames. So this frame is different from this frame. I'm not going to use that frame because it's really blurry. I'll use that one that's a little bit less blurry. That one moves down a lot. I'll use that one. Damn, that's blurry. Okay, there we go. So we're just going to keep going until we see a frame where he moves. So right here, you can see the arm move at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and keyframe that. There we go. You can see the arm move at the top again right there. So we're going to go ahead and keyframe that. You see the arm move again, as well as the particles coming from the rock and Mob's body. We're going to go ahead and keyframe that too. Keep on going. Right here, there's movement. You can see all the still frames here. We don't want any of that. We want our twixtor to be as fluid as possible. Keep going. Movement frame. Movement frame. And then that's the dead frame at the end. Just get rid of that. Now you're going to go ahead and drag all of the frames together. Just go ahead and go like this. You know, put them all together so there's no still frames in the middle of them. What I do is I just use Alt right bracket to cut off the end of the pre-comp so there's no extra frames hanging over. Now you can see if I press page down, there's absolutely no still movement here. There's all constant movement. We need our twixtor to have no pauses in it. Once we're done with this, then we're going to go ahead and render out this scene. We're going to press B at the start of the clip and N at the end of the clip. Make sure you save it. File, export, render. Name it Smash and put it into your renders folder. Once that's done rendering, now you can open up flow frames. I'll have a link to it in the description, but what it does, it's basically twixtor, but way better. So since I have a 3060, it'll go a lot faster. If you do have a relatively bad graphics card, it may be better just to do twixtor in general, but in this video, I'll be showing how I do my twixtor myself because I don't want to leave any of you guys out. So we're going to go to browse video. We're going to go to Smash, what I just rendered, open it, input FPS times 8, Rive 2.3 or 1.8. 1.8 is made for animation, but I low-key like 2.3 more for some reason. I don't know why. Now we're going to click interpolate. It'll take a second for the interpolation to actually start. And what it does is it takes the input FPS 23.976, times it around 8 because I'm doing times 8. And then that's the FPS that you're getting out. It stretches the frames so you can have a lot smoother twixtor, you know, and it's a great tool overall. So this took me 33 seconds. So I'm going to go and exit out of this, open up my edit again, stretch out the workspace. Oh, that's a marker. We're going to stretch out the workspace on both sides. And then we're going to go ahead and delete this pre-comp here because we don't need it. Then we're going to go ahead and grab the rendered interpolated video. So this will be in the same directory that you render it in the first place. So just go to your renders and drag it in. And you can press the left bracket key to move it to where you want, where your marker's at. Now we're going to pre-comp it again. This step isn't really necessary. I just like doing it just to make sure the twixtor is really smooth. I add twixtor again. I turn off the in is out FPS. Then I use 191 point. We can look over here to see what it is. Not 191.810 FPS. Save it. Contrast edge enhance forward. Pre-comp it. Now we're gonna hold Alt, drag this out to the very edge of our next marker. Actually, I think I want it like way over here. So we're just gonna stretch it out that far. Now we're gonna press Control Alt T to open up the timing map. We're gonna find the frame before this last keyframe, make a keyframe, delete the last keyframe. Then we're gonna use Alt right bracket to cut the pre-comp. Now we're gonna highlight these two keyframes, press F9, open the graph editor, and we're gonna graph our twixtor. Bring this down a little bit, bring this one up and out. The beginning of it was kind of harsh and really jagged in the animation itself, so we're gonna try and spot clear it. You may see a little bit of warps or blurs, so we're gonna go ahead and try and get rid of that. Alright, that looks decent. Now I'm gonna switch to half because my computer isn't absolutely amazing, but it's relatively decent, so it can handle half. Oh, press shut. And now you can see it's perfectly twixtor. There's no errors at all. And it's 109 FPS, 191 FPS. So now it's perfect. Okay, so now I'm just gonna do the same thing for like all of the other clips. Just gotta have that shit smooth. What attributes? Press D. Here's the cool hotkey. You can press D to like center it. So like, say your marker's way over here, press D, and it puts it in the center of your timeline or whatever. Okay, so we're gonna just Control Alt T to open up timer map, page down to see all the moving frames. Moving frame right here. Loop it, and we can just file, export, render. And we can name this let's just name it interp, because it's not one clip, it's multiple. So once that's done rendering, open up flow frames again, interpolation, browse video. These two keyframes, go into graph editor, just graph our twixtor like this, a little bit down on the top one, and the bottom one like that. Then we have, after we do our twixtor for our scenes, then we're going to go ahead and make a shake. Now, the funny thing is, in this anime, there's already a pre-established shake. And I kind of like it. So I may not do a shake, and there's also a scale out in the scene. But right, what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to scale in on these markers. So at least I'll be able to do some shake. So right here, I'm going to make a scale marker, scale into the next marker, and then scale out again. Boom. Just doing some normal scales. Alright, so yeah, those scales are decent. Now after I do my scales, I'm gonna go ahead and do a shake. So we don't need to do a shake in the first scene because the anime already has one. So we're gonna do Control Alt Y to make an adjustment layer, and we're gonna cut it at our next marker. Then we're gonna find s_shake from Sapphire. Then these are the settings that I use for most of my shakes. We're gonna make the frequency 4, the amplitude 5. Turn on motion blur, make the motion blur length around 1.8, somewhere in there, just off the head. This is gonna be kind of like more of a Y shake, but it's still gonna have some X shake, so I'm just gonna leave that. Turn up the Y shake a bit, make the tilt shake around 3, make the Z shake a little bit high. I don't know how much exactly. We're gonna make a keyframe on the amplitude by clicking the stopwatch. Press O to go to the end to make that 5 into 0. Save it. You never want your shit to crash. Press F9, open up the graph editor. Then we're going to go ahead and graph our shake's amplitude. Bring up the bottom one, grab the top one, drag it down and to the right a bit till the lines touch. And we have the start of a shake. Now, you see at the very beginning of the shake, there's some motion tile or reflection. We don't want any of that. We're just going to turn up the phase until we see a good frame. Alright, so now we're going to go at the graph editor and play the shake. So the shake doesn't look too good. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the phase until you see the type of shake we want. Okay, so after playing around with the phase for a bit, I've decided that that's the type of shake I want. However, I'm going to add a little build up because it's really harsh and sudden. So I'm just going to make the amplitude 0, go back to the graph editor, make it kind of go up to the 5 amplitude right here. Alright, so now, when we make our shake, there's a little black line in the corner, which is fine, there's nothing big about it. So we're going to open up motion tile, and we're going to slap it on the pre-comp, and turn up the output width and the output height, put some mirror edges, and that'll get rid of the black lines, and it should be flawless. Alright, cool. So now that we have our first shake done, let's go ahead and do a second shake, or you can do Control D, open up the shake keyframes with U. U is the key to open up all of the keyframes inside of your composition, inside of your adjustment layers, your camera layers, all that stuff. It's really important you know that. We can drag it over. And now you have 2 shakes. I'll turn the amplitude on this one. Like that. And then drag out the keyframes to the end. Redo the graph. And a little bit of reflection at the top. It's not a big deal. Nobody will really care that much. At least I hope. And yeah. So those are 2 decent shakes that I wouldn't call amazing, but they're definitely something, you know, that's pretty easy to teach. So I kind of want to have more of a Z shake on it, so let me just go ahead and do this. There we go. For me, I'm going to add a little bit of warp transform. So you scroll down, S_warp transform is the effect, scale X and scale Y. Right here is where the impact is, so we're going to make our scale Y go up a little bit, scale X go in a little bit. I'm going to go to the end of our adjustment layer, make both of these values 1. Okay, so this is the product of warp transform. Here's without it. Here's with it. So you may not be able to see it, but it drags down the Y value a little bit. Here, I'll make it a little bit stronger so you can see it do its job more. Kind of gives it a little squeeze to the top. It adds a great impact to the shake, definitely. I just do it until I can't really see too much motion tile. Maybe do the Shift X, Y up, but so far it's pretty good. This is the graph I like to use. The X is the horizontal squish. Y is the vertical squish. You just use kind of like, hold up, kind of messed up there. Alright, you just use kind of like a build up graph right here. Then you use a fast letdown graph like this. So yeah, that's how you do a basic warp transform. You can duplicate it, put it over here too. You can see the kind of squish that comes with it. Don't know why my After Effects just glitched. Yeah, there's a little motion tile error there, but it's still pretty good. We can make a new type of shake on this next scene. So we're going to do Control Alt Y, Alt left bracket to cut the adjustment layer, press O on the pre-comp, go to the end of it. Alt right bracket to cut this adjustment layer, press I to go to the beginning, and type in shake. We're going to use Sapphire Distort S_shake. Again, amplitude 5, frequency 4, motion blur length 0.1, somewhere around there. Now this shake, as you can see, this scene is moving on a horizontal axis. He's moving to the side and there's not really any vertical motion going on here. So that means we're going to do an X shake. And the X shake is normally at 192, so we're just going to leave it at that. And we're going to turn down the Y shake to around 10. Because you still want a little bit, but not that much. Make the tilt shake around 3. And a little bit of Z shake, nothing too huge. So we're going to go ahead and keep the amplitude 5 at the beginning. Press O to go to the end of the adjustment layer. Make the amplitude 0. Save it. Press U to open up the keyframes. Press F9 to easy ease the 2 keyframes. Open the graph editor. You're going to press this button to make the graph up to size, so you can do a lot more complex control. So we're going to grab the bottom one, drag it to the left and a little bit up. Now the top one is going to go down and to the right a bit. And now we have a generic X shake. So there's a bit of stuff you can mess around here. You can turn up your Z shake a little if you want. You know, add some Z shake in there. A little bit of scale shake. So I think that looks pretty good. So now I can just add a little bit of warp on it too, just like I did before. So we could duplicate the warp transform layer and bring it over here a bit. So this is where you can really see what's happening, but instead of the scale Y, we don't want a crazy amount of scale Y, we want more of scale X on this because it's an X shape. So right here, we're going to compress it a bit, and then we're going to have it go back out to 1. Then the scale Y can kind of go up on this one, and not too much, because we want to focus on the X-axis mainly here. So we're gonna press U on the adjustment layer for the warp, F9 it. Then we're gonna just, you know, same graph I talked about before. It's kind of like a slow letdown graph. Not a slow letdown, sorry, an impact letdown. Now I just add a bit of motion tile to cover up the black bar there. Some scenes is not really as noticeable as others, but you see, that covers up really well. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, that covers up so well. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but that's a blessing. So, now that we've added the shakes on all of the scenes, we need to have pre-build up to the shakes. So, what you can do on your previous scenes is flicker them a bit. What I do is I cut off the end of the previous scene, press T to open up opacity 100, 0, 100, 50, 100, 90, 100. So that adds kind of like a little flicker effect. Right here you can do Control Alt Y, Alt left bracket, Alt right bracket, save it, search up offset. That'll kind of like, you know, offset it. But on directional blur, I prefer BCC. They have a great directional blur. Make the blur amount around like 23. And it adds a little swish to it, a little movement. If it's moving on the x-axis, then it kind of correlates with the next scene. So yeah, you can also add a shake after, a blur after the shake. That's what I do. Control Alt Y, Alt left bracket, cut it, O to go to the end of the adjustment layer. Alt right bracket to cut it again. Search up lens blur. You can go from 0 to about 9, and then 0 at the end of the adjustment layer. That adds like a little bit of blur, maybe not 9, maybe around 5. And that just kind of gives it a little bit of blur after the hit. I think it's really cool. You can do it on the previous scenes too if you want. On this one as well.
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.
So it's looking decent so far. Now the end of this scene is kind of stiff, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm just gonna flicker it out instead of having that rusty piece of. Select all of the layers, pre-comp it. Okay. Then we can go to the end, press O, Control Alt Y, flip it. Now this is how I do my CC. It's incredibly easy, you know, no sweat. I just do contrast, turn up the contrast a little bit, get sharpen, slap sharpen on there, make it like so it looks good. Every anime is different. Then I used unsharp mask. Here we go. Yeah. Like, yeah. Um, that's pretty much it. Sometimes I go into looks and I add a bit of mojo. Yeah. Where's mojo? Here we go. I turn the mojo a little bit like right there, I think. Don't have to skin squeeze. That's what mojo is. It just kind of darkens it a bit. So here's
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.
yeah. Oh wait, what? Oh, okay. Since you use unsharp mask, you have to add motion tile on top of it. Boom, boom. That gets rid of those little weird bars. I'm gonna turn down the mojo a bit, and then add some flicker on the CC.
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.
I'm gonna turn down the flicker a bit. It's really strong. I think this scene's kind of dark too, so I'm gonna put a little bit of exposure on it. Just to brighten it up a bit.
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.
And that's how you do some shakes, a little bit of warp at the shakes, and CC. Oh, you can also add RSMB. Hold up, look. RSMB, sensitivity 100%. I make it about 20 or 30.
Try me, little nigga, you get hurt. Try me, little nigga, you get hurt.